Okay, so have you ever felt like the world's gone kind of crazy and you're trying to lead in it?
Oh, yeah,
Like everything feels unpredictable, you know?
definitely.
That's why we're doing this deep dive today
Yeah.
into the science behind leading when everything feels like a total roller coaster ride.
For sure.
We're using an article by Steve Gladis
Okay.
called Leading in Uncertain Times 2.0.
Right.
He published it just this month.
Mm-hmm.
It's packed with insights on how to not just survive, but actually thrive in today's world.
Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first,
Yeah.
think about how our brains react to uncertainty. Right.
Okay.
I remember this one time. I was trying to decide if I should move to a new city for a job.
Hmm.
And my rational brain was like, go for it.
Right.
But my gut, oh my gosh, my gut was churning.
Totally. That feeling is so universal.
Isn't it?
Like you're frozen,
Yeah.
And Gladys captures this so well.
Oh, yeah.
With an analogy, he uses the elephant and the rider.
Oh, I like that.
So the elephant,
Yeah.
that's your emotional brain,
Okay.
all instinct, immediate reactions.
So when something uncertain happens.
The elephant freaks out,
Yeah.
wants to bolt.
That makes total sense. So who's the writer then?
That's your prefrontal cortex.
The brainy part.
Exactly. Logic and planning, all that.
Okay.
But the thing is,
Yeah.
when the elephant panics,
Oh.
the rider can get totally trampled.
That explains a few decisions I've made under pressure.
Right.
Not my finest moments.
But you know what's even trickier?
What's that?
Gladys talks about these cognitive pitfalls
Right.
that our brains use to try to make sense of uncertain situations.
Okay.
They're like mental shortcuts.
Got it.
Sometimes helpful, sometimes not.
Interesting.
They can lead to some really biased decisions.
Okay, let's break these down one by one.
Let's do it.
First up, hindsight biases.
Yeah.
We've all done this, right?
Cool.
It's that I knew it all along feel.
But only after something happens
Exactly. It's like we rewrite history in our minds.
to fit what we know now.
Exactly. So as leaders, how do we avoid this trap?
Well, it's recognizing hindsight is not 20/20 vision, right?
Right.
Encourage your team to document their decisions as they're making them.
And why they made them.
Right. A real-time record.
Smart.
So you're not relying on memory later.
I like that.
Okay, next pitfall.
Hit me.
Confirmation biases.
Oh, this one feels dangerous, especially for leaders.
It can be.
So what is it exactly?
It's when you favor information that supports what you already believe,
Oh, yeah.
ignoring anything that contradicts it.
Classic.
Right. Imagine a leader
Yeah.
who's convinced their new product is going to be a huge hit, even though market research is saying no.
Oh, yeah.
That leader will probably surround themselves with yes people.
And miss all the warning signs, for sure.
Exactly.
So how do we counter that, then?
You got to actively seek out people who disagree with you. Yeah, even create a devil's advocate role on your team.
That's interesting.
Right, to challenge those assumptions.
I like that.
Poke holes in ideas before they become problems.
And this ties into what Gladys talks about later on.
Yeah.
Building a culture of what he calls psychological safety.
Oh, absolutely. Where people feel comfortable speaking up,
Even if it's unpopular, right?
even if it goes against the grain.
Yeah, I love that idea.
It's key for getting better decisions.
Okay, moving on.
I,
Loss aversion.
oh, this one's personal for me.
It hits home, for sure.
I hold on to things way too long.
Because you're afraid of losing them.
Yeah, even if they're not useful anymore.
Totally. Why do we do that?
It's how our brains are wired.
Huh.
We feel the pain of a loss so much more strongly.
Then the pleasure of a gain?
Exactly.
Makes sense.
So we get cautious, even paralyzed.
When we have to make a risky decision.
It's tough to let go.
So how do we overcome this fear of loss then?
Well, one way is to reframe the decision.
Right.
Instead of focusing on what you might lose,
Yeah.
think about what you'll gain by taking a new path.
Interesting.
Shifting your perspective can make a big difference.
Love that.
Okay, last pitfall on our list for today.
Bring it on.
Emotional contagion.
This feels almost unavoidable in today's world.
It's tough to escape.
Everyone's so connected.
Yeah, and our brains, well,
They're wired to mirror the emotions of people around us.
especially leaders.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right. Like one time, my boss was freaking out about a presentation,
Oh, no.
and the whole team got anxious, even though we weren't presenting.
That's emotional contagion in action.
Textbook example.
Yikes.
So the key to combating this,
Yeah.
leaders have got to manage their own emotions.
Be self-aware.
Exactly.
So noticing when you're getting stressed.
Right. And instead of bottling it up,
Yeah, what do?
find healthy ways to process those emotions.
Talking to someone, taking a break.
Yeah, going for a walk, anything that helps.
Showing your team it's okay to manage their emotions too.
leading by example.
I like that.
And, by understanding these pitfalls, we're already one step ahead.
In making better decisions.
Absolutely.
But wait,
Yeah.
Gladis mentions that these pitfalls can sometimes be a good thing.
He does.
How's that possible?
Well, think about familiar situations.
Okay.
Your brain's shortcuts can actually help you make quick decisions.
Because of past experience.
Right, like a firefighter who instantly knows the best way to approach a fire.
Wow, yeah.
Their experience-based biases can actually be life-saving in that moment.
So it's not about eliminating these mental shortcuts entirely.
Yeah.
It's about knowing when to trust them and when to slow down and analyze things carefully.
Exactly. It all depends on the context.
Makes sense.
And speaking of making smarter decisions,
Oh, are we going there now?
that's where we'll pick up in part 2.
Okay, I'm ready.
We'll dive into Gladis's strategies for regaining control when your emotional elephant wants to run wild.
I can't wait.
See you then.
See you soon. All right, so last time we were talking about those cognitive pitfalls.
Oh yeah, those sneaky brain tricks.
That can really mess with our decisions, especially when things are uncertain.
Totally. It's like our emotional brains, those elephants,
Right.
they take over, and the rider, our rational side,
Yeah.
gets left in the dust.
So how do we take back control then?
That's the big question.
Make clear-headed choices even when we're feeling the pressure.
Exactly.
I'm thinking about this one time. I bought this really expensive gadget,
Oh yeah,
totally impulsive, on a whim.
we've all been there.
And then I realized I didn't even need it.
Ugh, the regret.
Talk about a bad decision. Right.
But the good news is, Gladys has some great strategies for this,
Oh, tell me more.
for making smarter choices, even when our emotions are going haywire.
Okay, so first up, he mentions this 10-second rule.
Yeah, this one's a game changer.
It sounds almost too simple.
Right. But it works.
So how does it work?
Before you react to anything stressful, take 10 slow, deep breaths.
Okay.
It's like hitting pause on your emotional elephant.
Giving your rational rider a chance to catch up.
Exactly. Your prefrontal cortex,
The thinking part.
yeah, it can finally take control again.
I use this all the time now, especially before sending important emails.
Oh, smart.
Or when I have to make a big decision,
It prevents those knee-jerk reactions.
which I've definitely been guilty of in the past.
we all have.
Okay, so what else does Gladys recommend?
Well, he talks about scenario planning.
Scenario planning.
It's like mentally rehearsing different outcomes.
So, like, what if this happens?
Yeah, or what if that happens?
Interesting.
It helps you feel more prepared
I'm less anxious.
because you've already walked through those possibilities in your mind.
That makes sense.
It's like, imagine you're leading a team through a merger
Okay, yeah.
and you anticipate potential problems.
Like what?
Employee resistance, cultural clashes, logistics stuff.
Makes sense.
By planning for those in advance, you're not caught off guard.
Okay, I like that.
You have a game plan for multiple scenarios.
I can get a little stuck in the details sometimes, though, overanalyzing every little bit of data.
I hear you. That's where the 80-20 rule comes in.
80-20 rule.
It's about finding the balance between gathering info and trusting your gut.
Okay, break that down for me.
So you spend 80% of your time doing research, talking to people, analyzing all the data.
Got it.
But then for that final 20%,
Yeah.
you trust your intuition.
Interesting.
It's not ignoring the data.
Right.
It's about recognizing that intuition, especially when it's honed by experience,
Yeah.
can be really valuable.
Like we're gathering all the pieces of the puzzle, but then letting our intuition guide us to see the bigger picture.
Especially when we're dealing with uncertainty
Right.
and we don't have all the information.
That makes total sense.
So it's a bit of both,
Logic and intuition.
working together.
Okay, we've been talking about individual decision making, right? But what about when we're leading a whole team through uncertainty?
That's a whole other level.
Right. It seems like trust becomes even more important,
Absolutely. Trust is the foundation.
especially when things feel shaky.
It's like the bedrock.
So how do we build that unshakable trust then?
Well, Gladis talks about the trust triangle.
Okay.
It's like a three-legged stool.
A stool.
Yeah. If one leg is weak, the whole thing collapses.
Got it.
So the first leg,
Yeah.
character.
Being honest and ethical.
Exactly. Consistent in what you say and do,
So people know they can count on you.
even when things get tough.
Makes sense. What's the second leg?
Competence.
Showing you have the skills and knowledge.
Right. And even if you don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
being willing to learn and adapt.
Okay. And the third leg, showing concern for your team.
Exactly. Especially when everyone's feeling anxious.
Right.
Active listening, empathy, support, all of that.
So it's not just about what we do as leaders, but who we are.
Precisely. And here's where neuroscience comes in again.
Okay.
Gladis points out that a lack of transparency
Oh, yeah.
can trigger our brain's fear response.
Like when you know something's wrong, but no one will tell you what's going on.
Exactly. That feeling of dread.
I hate that.
And that's why transparency is crucial for building trust.
So even if we don't have all the answers.
Being open and honest about what we do know.
Okay.
It creates a sense of safety.
I can see that, but is there a risk of being too open?
That's a good question. It's about finding the right balance.
Right.
Radical transparency doesn't mean sharing every single detail.
Especially if it might cause unnecessary panic.
Exactly.
So how do we walk that line then?
Be honest about the challenges.
Okay.
Communicate clearly what you do know.
Yeah.
And provide regular updates, even if it's just to say, we're still working on it.
I like that, being upfront but also reassuring.
And Gladis talks about the importance of psychological safety.
Right, we talked about that earlier.
This is a concept from Amy Edmondson.
Oh, the Harvard professor.
Yeah, she's done a lot of research on this.
So what is psychological safety, for those who haven't heard of it?
It's about creating an environment where people feel safe to speak up.
To share their ideas.
And even make mistakes.
Without fear of judgment or punishment.
Exactly.
I had a boss once who was totally the opposite.
Oh,
The my way or the highway type.
classic example of an unsafe environment.
I was terrified to say anything that might challenge him.
Yeah, that stifles creativity.
Big time.
Edmondson's research shows that teams with high psychological safety,
Yeah.
they're way more productive, innovative, and resilient.
Okay, so how do we create that kind of environment then?
Gladis suggests things like red team exercises.
Red team exercises.
Yeah, where someone's specifically assigned to play devil's advocate,
Oh, I love that. A built-in challenger.
to poke holes in your assumptions.
Uncover blind spots.
Exactly. It leads to better decisions.
What else?
He also mentions pre-mortem analysis.
Pre-mortem.
Like, imagine a project has failed.
Okay.
And work backward to figure out what went wrong.
So you can prevent it from happening in the first place.
Exactly. And don't forget scenario planning.
Right, we talked about that earlier.
It shows your team you're prepared for different possibilities.
Which builds trust.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've covered a lot about building trust.
It's so important.
But something tells me there's a brain science angle here too.
Oh, there is?
Gladys mentions this thing called oxytocin,
The cuddle hormone.
the tuttle hormone.
Yeah, it's all about bonding and connection.
Interesting.
It gets released during positive interactions.
So like laughter, hugs.
Yeah, even just a meaningful conversation.
Okay.
It reduces stress, creates a sense of connection.
So how do we boost oxytocin levels on our teams then?
Gladys suggests starting meetings with a simple check-in question.
Like what?
Something non-work related, like, what are you grateful for today?
Or what's the best book you've read lately?
Exactly. It creates a more relaxed, connected atmosphere.
It's like suddenly the meeting feels less like a task.
Right. More like a shared experience.
And that connection builds trust.
It's all connected.
So by understanding the science of trust,
And using these tools,
we can create a more resilient, supportive environment.
even when things are uncertain.
Which brings us to another important aspect of leading in these times.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Projecting calm confidence.
Even when we don't feel it.
That's a tough one.
It is. But we'll dive into that in part 3.
Okay, I can't wait.
We'll unpack the science of emotional contagion and explore how to lead with composure, even under pressure.
See you soon. All right, welcome back to the deep dive.
It's the final part. Can you believe it?
I know, right? Time flies.
It does.
We've covered so much already.
So much.
Cognitive biases, trust triangles,
The cuddle hormone?
the cuddle hormone.
It's a lot.
It is, but now we're getting to this big challenge, right?
Okay.
Projecting calm confidence as a leader.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Even when, let's be honest,
Yeah.
you're feeling anything but calm and confident.
no. Happens all the time.
Right. So picture this.
Oh.
You're leading this huge project.
Yeah.
Deadlines are looming.
Uh-oh.
Unexpected problems popping up everywhere.
Sounds familiar.
Inside, you're feeling that knot of anxiety, but you know you can't let it show.
Classic leadership dilemma.
Yeah. It is. And that's where understanding emotional contagion comes in.
Oh, tell me about it.
We talked about it a bit earlier, but remind me. How does that work again?
So our brains, right,
Yeah.
they're wired to mirror the emotions of people around us,
Especially leaders.
especially leaders. It's like this invisible Wi-Fi network
Emotional Wi-Fi.
connecting everyone's feelings.
So if the leader's stressed out, the team picks up on that.
Oh, yeah. Instantly.
Their mirror neurons are like, danger, stress alert.
Exactly. The leader's freaking out. We better freak out too.
And that creates this downward spiral, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone gets more stressed, less focused.
Productivity plummets.
The whole project suffers.
It's a mess.
So how do we break that cycle then?
Well, first step,
Yeah.
self-awareness.
Knowing how you're feeling.
Exactly. The more aware you are of your own emotional state, the better you can manage it.
So you don't spread that stress to everyone else.
Exactly. It's like noticing those early warning signs.
Like snapping at your colleagues.
Or constantly checking your email.
That tightness in your chest.
Yep, all of that.
And once you notice those signs...
Then you can start doing something about it.
Like what?
Gladis talks about finding healthy ways to de-stress.
Okay, so exercise,
Meditation.
spending time in nature.
All of that.
I find even a quick walk can help clear my head.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Gets you out of that negative headspace.
It's about finding what works for you.
And then there's open communication, right?
Huge. Remember, radical transparency.
Being honest about the challenges.
Exactly, but framing it in a constructive way.
So instead of, we're doomed, it's more like, okay, we're facing some obstacles, but here's the plan.
You acknowledge the reality.
Yeah.
But you also project a sense of control.
We've got this.
Exactly.
And don't forget about modeling those positive behaviors.
Oh, that's huge.
If you want your team to stay calm and focused, you got to show them how it's done.
Lead by example.
So no more late-night panicky emails.
Or, the sky is falling, pronouncements.
Right, even when things feel tough.
You got to model the behavior you want to see.
And this all ties back to psychological safety too, right?
Absolutely.
Creating that environment where people feel safe to speak up.
To ask questions, even admit when they've made a mistake.
Without fear of judgment.
Exactly. When people feel safe,
Yeah.
they're less likely to panic when things go wrong.
Let's look at that feeling of, we're all in this together.
Exactly. And that can be so powerful.
Especially when things are uncertain.
For sure.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding our brains, making smarter choices, building trust.
Projecting calm confidence.
But at some point, we got to actually do something about these challenges, right?
We can't just talk about it.
Exactly. So how do we approach problem solving in a way that feels manageable?
That's where Gladis's 4PS framework comes in.
4PS. Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's a really simple but powerful approach.
Break it down for me.
Okay, so the first P stands for problem.
Seems obvious, but there's got to be more to it.
There is. It's about really understanding the root cause.
Not just the symptoms.
Exactly. You got to dig deep, ask the right questions.
Don't jump to solutions too quickly.
Exactly. Really listen to your team.
Okay, so once you've identified the problem.
Then you move on to the second P.
Which is?
Present state.
Okay, so where do things stand right now?
Exactly. What's the impact? Who's affected? What happens if we do nothing?
So it's about facing reality, even if it's not pretty.
Sometimes it's a wake-up call, but it's necessary.
Okay, then what?
Then you shift to the third P.
Okay.
Possible future state.
So we're brainstorming solutions now?
Yeah, envisioning a better outcome.
Focusing on what we want to happen.
Gladis suggests asking questions like, what would success look like?
Or if we could wave a magic wand, what would be different?
It's about shifting from problem-focused to solution-oriented.
I love that.
And then finally, the fourth P.
Hit me.
Plan.
Okay, so now we're putting those ideas into action.
Exactly. Concrete steps, who's responsible, deadlines, all of that.
Creating a roadmap to get to that desired future state.
Exactly. And Gladis emphasizes accountability here.
So regular check-ins, progress reports.
Making sure everyone's on track.
I like that. This 4Ps framework seems really versatile.
Oh, it is. I use it with my coaching clients all the time.
Can you also use it with teams?
Absolutely. It's actually the foundation of something called action learning.
Action learning.
Yeah, a team-based problem-solving approach.
We should do a deep dive on that sometime.
Definitely.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive on leading in uncertain times, what are the key takeaways?
Well, first and foremost, uncertainty is just part of life.
It's inevitable.
And it's part of leadership, too.
But how we respond to it, that's the key.
That's what we can control.
And with a little help from brain science.
We can make better choices.
So it's not about eliminating uncertainty.
No way.
It's about developing the skills to navigate it.
And even use it to our advantage.
Exactly, by understanding our brain.
Building trust.
Leading with calm confidence.
Using a structured approach to problem solving.
We can not only survive these tough times,
but thrive in them.
So as Gladis asks at the end of his article, how will you lead differently in uncertain times?
It's a great question. And I'd add, Embrace the opportunity.
Opportunity.
Yeah, uncertainty can be a chance to grow, to learn, to become an even better leader.
I like that, a positive way to look at it.
That's what it's all about.